At 45,000 feet, Captain Sarah Mitchell suddenly fainted. Her passenger called for help. Two F-22 fighter jets rushed to rescue them. Then the passenger revealed his call sign. The F-22 pilots froze in shock. It was Viper 11, a living legend. Nobody expected him on this flight. Before you watch full story, comment below from which country are you watching. Don't forget to subscribe for more amazing stories. It was a normal Tuesday morning at Edwards Air Force Base in California. The sun was just rising over the desert. The air was cool and fresh. Captain Sarah Mitchell was preparing for a routine test flight. She was an experienced pilot with over 15 years of flying experience. Sarah was going to fly a new civilian aircraft at high altitude. The plane was designed to carry passengers at 45,000 feet. This was much higher than normal commercial flights. At this height, the air is very thin. The view is amazing. You can see the curve of the Earth. Sarah completed her pre-flight checks. Everything looked perfect. The engines were running smoothly. All the instruments showed normal readings. She felt confident and ready. The weather was clear. It was a perfect day for flying. The control tower gave her permission to take off. Sarah pushed the throttle forward. The engines roared to life. The plane moved down the runway, faster and faster. Within seconds, they were in the air. The ground fell away below them. Sarah loved this moment. The moment when the wheels left the ground, when the plane became free. She guided the aircraft higher and higher into the sky. The altimeter showed their climb. 10,000 feet, 20,000 feet, 30,000 feet. Today, Sarah was not flying alone. She had a special passenger in the back seat. This was unusual for a test flight. But this passenger had special clearance. He was there to observe the flight and take notes. The passenger's name was not in the flight manifest. He was simply listed as Observer 1. He wore a flight suit with no name tag. His face was calm and serious. He had the look of someone who had seen many things. Before takeoff, Sarah had tried to make conversation. "Good morning, sir. Ready for the flight?" she asked. The passenger nodded. "Yes, Captain. Let's proceed." His voice was deep and steady. He did not say much more. Sarah could tell he was military. Probably high-ranking. She did not ask questions. In her line of work, you learned not to ask too many questions. As they climbed higher, Sarah focused on flying. The aircraft was responding well. All systems were normal. They were approaching 40,000 feet now. The sky above was getting darker. Below them, the Earth looked small and distant. Sarah checked her oxygen system. At this altitude, the air pressure was very low. Without pressurization and oxygen, a person would lose consciousness in seconds. The cabin was pressurized, but she always double-checked everything. The aircraft leveled off at 45,000 feet. At this height, they were above most of the weather. The sky was incredibly clear. Sarah could see for hundreds of miles in every direction. The horizon curved gently. It was a beautiful sight. "We're at 45,000 feet, Sarah announced. "Everything is stable." The passenger in the back made a note on his tablet. He was observing the instruments carefully. Sarah began the planned maneuvers. Gentle turns to the left and right. Testing the aircraft's handling at high altitude. Suddenly, Sarah felt strange. Her head felt light. There was a strange pressure behind her eyes. She blinked several times. The instruments seemed to blur for a moment. "Are you all right, Captain?" the passenger asked. "Yes, I'm fine," Sarah said. But she was not fine. Something was wrong. Her heart was beating faster. She felt dizzy. The cockpit seemed to spin slightly. She gripped the controls tighter. She tried to focus. But her vision was getting darker around the edges. Sarah reached for the oxygen mask. But her hand felt heavy. It moved slowly, as if through water. She could not reach the mask. Her arm fell back down. "Captain," the passenger's voice sounded far away. Sarah tried to answer. But no words came out. The darkness was closing in. She could see a small point of light in the center. Everything else was black. Then even that light disappeared. Captain Sarah Mitchell fainted at 45,000 feet. The plane continued forward for a few seconds. Then it began to dip. Without Sarah's hands on the controls, the aircraft started to lose altitude. The nose dropped slightly. The plane began a slow, gentle descent. In the back seat, the passenger realized what had happened. He could see that Sarah was slumped forward against her harness. She was unconscious. The situation was critical. He immediately pressed the emergency communication button. "Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. This is test aircraft November 77 Charlie. Pilot is unconscious. I repeat, pilot is unconscious." The control tower at Edwards Air Force Base responded immediately. "November 77 Charlie, we copy. What is your status?" "We are at 44,000 feet and descending slowly. Pilot is unresponsive. I am a passenger, not rated on this aircraft." There was a brief pause. The controller's voice was calm but urgent. "November 77 Charlie, we are scrambling support. Stand by." The passenger looked at the instruments. He had flight training, but not on this type of aircraft. The controls looked similar to other planes he had flown, but different enough to be dangerous. One wrong move could send them into a spin. The altimeter showed 43,000 feet now. They were losing altitude at about 500 feet per minute. Not falling fast, but falling steadily. If Sarah did not wake up soon, they would be in serious trouble. At a nearby air base, two F-22 Raptor pilots were on alert duty. Major Jake Thompson and Captain Lisa Rodriguez were in the ready room when the call came. "Scramble, scramble. Emergency intercept, test aircraft in distress." Both pilots jumped up. They ran to their aircraft. Ground crews were already preparing the jets. Within minutes, both F-22s were starting their engines. The powerful fighters came to life with a roar. Jake and Lisa had flown together many times. They were a good team. Jake was the flight lead. Lisa was his wingman. They worked together like one mind. "Edwards Tower, Raptor 1 and Raptor 2 ready for takeoff," Jake radioed. "Raptor flight, you are cleared for immediate takeoff. Target is November 77 Charlie, bearing 270, altitude now 42,000 feet and descending. Pilot unconscious, passenger on board attempting to maintain aircraft." Both F-22s rolled onto the runway. Without waiting, they pushed their throttles to full power. The afterburners ignited. The jets shot down the runway like missiles. In seconds, they were airborne. The F-22s climbed rapidly. These were the most advanced fighter jets in the world. They could climb faster than almost any other aircraft. Jake and Lisa pointed their noses up and accelerated. "Raptor 1, contact established on radar," Jake said. "Target is 20 miles ahead, descending through 41,000 feet. Copy that, Raptor 1. "I have contact as well," Lisa replied. They pushed their jets faster. The distance closed quickly. Within minutes, they could see the civilian aircraft ahead of them. It was flying level now, but something was clearly wrong. Jake brought his F-22 alongside the civilian aircraft. He flew carefully, maintaining a safe distance. He could see into the cockpit. The pilot was slumped forward. This was bad. "November 77 Charlie, this is Raptor 1. I am off your right wing. Can you see me? Raptor 1, I see you. Pilot is still unconscious. I am trying to help her. The passenger had unbuckled his harness. He was leaning forward, trying to reach Sarah. He managed to grab her oxygen mask and place it over her face. He turned the flow to maximum. Jake watched carefully. November 77 Charlie, can you fly the aircraft? I have basic flight training, but not on this type. I can try if necessary. Stand by. We're getting help. On the ground, a team of experts was gathering. They had the aircraft manual. They had pilots who knew this plane. They were preparing to talk the passenger through landing the aircraft if needed. But first, they needed Sarah to wake up. Lisa flew her F-22 around to the other side. She looked into the cockpit as well. Raptor 2, I can see the pilot moving slightly, Lisa reported. The oxygen might be working. Inside the civilian aircraft, Sarah's brain was getting oxygen again. Her body was fighting to wake up. Her fingers twitched. Her eyes moved under her eyelids. The passenger continued trying to help Sarah. He checked her pulse. It was weak but steady. He made sure the oxygen mask was secure. Then he returned to the radio. Raptor 1, requesting permission to identify myself. It may help expedite assistance. Jake was confused. November 77 Charlie, we already know your aircraft identification. Negative, Raptor 1. I need to identify myself personally. My call sign. On the ground, the controller spoke up. November 77 Charlie, go ahead with your call sign. There was a brief pause. Then the passenger spoke clearly. My call sign is Viper 11. Silence filled the radio for a moment. Jake felt his blood run cold. Lisa gasped. Even the ground controller paused. Viper 11 was legendary. Every military pilot knew that call sign. It belonged to one man. A man who had done things that were still classified, a man who had flown missions that officially never happened. Viper 11 was General Marcus Viper Stone. He was a living legend. He had flown in 3 different wars. He had more confirmed kills than any active pilot. He had trained half the fighter pilots currently in service. He was a hero. But he was also supposed to be retired. The last anyone knew, he was working at the Pentagon. What was he doing on this test flight? Jake's voice was different when he spoke again. More respectful. Viper 11, this is Raptor 1. We copy your identification, sir. What assistance do you need? Raptor 1, I need you to guide me through waking this pilot and potentially landing this aircraft. Can you do that? Yes, sir. We have experts standing by. Inside the civilian aircraft, Sarah's eyes began to open. Everything was blurry. She could hear voices. Someone was calling her name. Captain Mitchell. Sarah. Can you hear me? Sarah tried to focus. She saw a face close to hers. The passenger. He was leaning over the seat, looking at her with concern. What happened? Sarah's voice was weak. You lost consciousness. Hypoxia, I think. Your oxygen system may have malfunctioned. But you're getting oxygen now. How do you feel? Sarah took several deep breaths. The oxygen mask was on her face. Fresh air filled her lungs. Her head was clearing. She looked at the instruments. They were at 40,000 feet, descending slowly. I can fly, she said. Her hands went to the controls. Take it slow, Captain. We have F-22 escorts. They're here to help. Sarah looked out the window. Sure enough, there was an F-22 Raptor flying alongside. Another was on the other side. She had never seen anything so beautiful. She keyed the radio. Raptor 1, this is November 77 Charlie. Pilot is conscious and resuming control. The relief in Jake's voice was clear. November 77 Charlie, that is outstanding news. How are you feeling? Better. Oxygen is flowing now. I think I can land this aircraft. We'll stay with you all the way down. Take your time. Sarah checked all her instruments. The oxygen system showed a problem. There had been a leak in the line. It had slowly reduced her oxygen supply at high altitude. By the time she reached 45,000 feet, she was not getting enough air. That was why she fainted. The backup oxygen system was working now. She was getting plenty of air. Her head felt clear. Her hands were steady. She could do this. Sarah began a controlled descent. She reduced power and lowered the nose gently. The aircraft responded smoothly. The two F-22s stayed with her, one on each side. How's the aircraft handling? Jake asked. Good. All systems are responding normally. Just the oxygen system has a fault. Everything else is fine. As they descended, Sarah felt stronger. At lower altitudes, there was more oxygen in the air. Even with the mask, she felt better. The pressure in her head was gone. Her vision was completely clear. General Stone sat in the back seat. He was quiet now. He had done what needed to be done. He had kept calm. He had helped Sarah. He had used his authority to get the best help available. Now he let the professionals do their work. But he watched carefully. He was always watching. Always learning. That was why he was still alive after so many years of dangerous flying. The aircraft descended through 30,000 feet. Then 20,000 feet. Sarah was flying perfectly. She had the situation under control. The two F-22s stayed in formation with her. November 77 Charlie, this is Edwards Tower. We have emergency vehicles standing by. Medical team is ready. Cleared to land on runway 27. Copy that, Edwards. Runway 27. Sarah lined up for the approach. She extended the landing gear. The three wheels locked into place with solid clunks. She lowered the flaps. The aircraft slowed down. The two F-22s broke away. They flew past her, waggling their wings in salute. Then they climbed away and circled overhead. They would watch until she was safely on the ground. The runway came up to meet her. Sarah's hands were steady on the controls. She had made thousands of landings. This was just one more. She pushed aside all thoughts of what had happened at high altitude. Right now, she was just flying. The wheels touched the runway with a gentle bump. Perfect. Sarah pulled back the throttle. She applied the brakes smoothly. The aircraft slowed down. Fire trucks and ambulances followed alongside, but they were not needed. Sarah brought the plane to a stop. She shut down the engines. The sudden silence was wonderful. She pulled off the oxygen mask and took a deep breath of normal air. It tasted sweet. Nice landing, Captain, General Stone said from the back seat. Sarah turned around. Thank you for helping me, sir. You did the hard part. You woke up and flew the plane. The canopy opened. Ground crew brought ladders. Medical personnel climbed up to check on Sarah. She waved them off. I'm fine. Really, just had an oxygen problem at altitude. But they insisted on checking her. That was the rule. Sarah allowed them to examine her while General Stone climbed out of the aircraft. An hour later, Sarah sat in the base hospital. The doctors had examined her thoroughly. She was fine. No lasting effects from the hypoxia. She had been lucky. A few more minutes without oxygen, and the outcome could have been very different. General Stone came to visit her. He was now wearing his uniform. Sarah saw the stars on his shoulders. 4 stars. He was not just a general. He was a 4-star general. One of the highest-ranking officers in the Air Force. "How are you feeling, Captain?" he asked. "Much better, sir. Thank you for your help up there." "You don't need to thank me. Any pilot would have done the same. But you're not any pilot, sir. You're Viper 11. Stone smiled slightly. "That call sign is from a long time ago." "Not that long, sir. You're still flying." "I try to stay current. Today was supposed to be a simple observation flight. Didn't turn out that way." Sarah laughed. "No, sir, it didn't. Can I ask what you were observing?" "The aircraft's performance at high altitude. We're considering it for a special program. But after today, we'll need to fix that oxygen system before we use it again." "Definitely, sir." Stone stood to leave. Then he turned back. "You did well today, Captain. Waking up at that altitude, taking control, landing safely. That takes skill and courage. I'll be mentioning this in my report." "Thank you, sir." After he left, Sarah sat quietly. She thought about what had happened. She had almost died today. But she had survived. She had done her job. And she had been helped by a legend. Meanwhile, Jake and Lisa landed their F-22s. They climbed out and removed their helmets. Both were still processing what had happened. "Did that really happen?" Lisa asked. "Was that really Viper 11? "Yes, it was really him," Jake said. "I checked. General Marcus Stone was on that flight." "What was he doing on a civilian test flight?" "I don't know. But I'm glad he was there. He kept calm. He helped that pilot. He probably saved both their lives." They walked back to the ready room. Other pilots were waiting for them. Everyone had heard about the emergency. Everyone wanted to know what happened. "We just escorted Viper 11 back to base," Jake told them. The room went quiet. Then everyone started talking at once. Viper 11 was famous. He was a hero to every fighter pilot. Some of the younger pilots had never even seen him in person. "What was he like?" one pilot asked. "Calm, professional, exactly what you'd expect," Lisa said. Later that day, Jake and Lisa were called to the commander's office. They wondered if they were in trouble. But when they arrived, General Stone was there as well. "These are the 2 pilots who escorted us back," General Stone said to the commander. The commander nodded. "Good work today. Both of you." "Thank you, sir," Jake and Lisa said together. General Stone shook their hands. "You did exactly what needed to be done. You stayed calm. You provided support. That's what good wingmen do." Coming from Viper 11, that was the highest praise possible. Over the next few days, investigators examined the aircraft. They found the problem with the oxygen system. A valve had failed. It was a manufacturing defect. The valve looked normal but did not work correctly. At high altitude, where every breath of oxygen is critical, this small defect had almost killed Sarah. The investigation report was detailed and thorough. New safety procedures were recommended. All similar aircraft were grounded until their oxygen systems could be checked. The manufacturer was notified. They issued a recall for the defective valves. Changes were made to the testing procedures. Sarah read the report carefully. It was strange to see her near-death experience described in technical language. But she was glad the problem had been found. Now other pilots would not face the same danger. She was cleared to fly again after 1 week. Her first flight was a simple training mission at low altitude. She felt nervous at first. But once she was in the air, everything felt normal again. She was a pilot. Flying was what she did. A month later, there was a ceremony at Edwards Air Force Base. Sarah was awarded a medal for her actions that day. The citation praised her for maintaining control of the aircraft and landing safely despite losing consciousness at high altitude. Jake and Lisa also received medals for their professional response to the emergency. They had provided critical support at a dangerous moment. General Stone was there to present the medals. He shook each person's hand and said a few words. When he came to Sarah, he paused. "You know, Captain, I've flown with a lot of pilots over the years. Some were good. Some were great. You're in the great category. Keep flying." "Thank you, sir. I will." After the ceremony, there was a reception. Pilots from different squadrons attended. Everyone wanted to hear the story of what happened at 45,000 feet. Sarah found herself telling the story over and over. Each time, she remembered more details. The feeling of losing consciousness, the darkness closing in, waking up to find F-22s flying alongside, the gentle landing. But the part that people found most interesting was General Stone. Viper 11, riding as a passenger on a test flight, staying calm when the pilot fainted, using his authority to get help. It was the kind of story that would be told for years. Sarah returned to her regular duties. She flew test flights on different aircraft. Each time she climbed above 40,000 feet, she thought about that day. But she did not let fear control her. Fear was natural. But courage meant flying anyway. She always checked the oxygen system twice now. Before every flight. She made sure everything was working perfectly. Other pilots noticed and started doing the same. Safety procedures improved across the entire test pilot program. One day, Sarah received a message. General Stone wanted to see her. She reported to his office, wondering what he needed. "Captain Mitchell, I have a proposal for you," he said. "We're starting a new program. Advanced high-altitude aircraft. We need experienced test pilots. Pilots who understand the dangers, pilots who can handle emergencies. Are you interested?" Sarah did not hesitate. "Yes, sir, very interested." "Good. The program starts in 3 months. You'll be training with some of the best pilots in the world. It won't be easy." "I understand, sir. I know you do. That's why I'm asking you." Sarah left the office feeling excited. A new challenge. A new program. This was why she became a test pilot. To push the boundaries. To fly higher and faster. To test new aircraft that would shape the future. 3 months later, Sarah reported to a classified facility in Nevada. She was one of 12 pilots selected for the program. They would be testing aircraft that could fly at extreme altitudes. Aircraft that could reach the edge of space. The training was intense. They learned about high-altitude physiology. What happens to the human body when air pressure drops, how to recognize the symptoms of hypoxia, how to respond to emergencies. They trained in altitude chambers. These were sealed rooms where the air pressure could be lowered to simulate high altitude. Sarah sat in the chamber as the pressure dropped. She felt the symptoms again. The lightheadedness, the confusion, the darkness closing in. But this time, she knew what to do. She put on her oxygen mask immediately. The symptoms cleared. She had learned from her experience. Now she was teaching others. General Stone visited the program regularly. He observed the training. He gave lectures on high-altitude flying. The pilots listened carefully. When Viper 11 talked, you listened. Flying at extreme altitude is different, he told them. There's no room for error. A small mistake can kill you. But if you stay alert, if you follow procedures, you can do things that seem impossible. Sarah raised her hand. "Sir, what's the highest you've ever flown?" Stone smiled. "That's classified. But I can tell you this. When you're at the edge of space, when you can see the stars even in daylight, when the Earth curves away below you, that's when you understand why we fly. 6 months into the program, Sarah was selected for the first test flight of the new aircraft. It was called the X-50. It was designed to fly at 80,000 feet. Higher than any previous test aircraft. The preparation took weeks. Every system was checked and rechecked. The oxygen system was tested repeatedly. There would be no failures this time. Sarah wore a pressure suit. If the cabin lost pressure at 80,000 feet, the suit would keep her alive. The morning of the flight, Sarah felt calm. She had prepared for this. She knew the aircraft. She knew the procedures. She was ready. General Stone came to see her before the flight. "How are you feeling, Captain?" "Ready, sir." "Remember what happened last time?" "Every day, sir." "Good. Use that experience. Let it make you cautious but not afraid." "Yes, sir." Sarah climbed into the X-50. The canopy closed. She was sealed inside the pressure suit and the aircraft. Ground crew made final checks. Then the radio crackled. "X-50, this is control. You are cleared for takeoff." "Copy that, Control.X-50 rolling." Sarah pushed the throttle forward. The experimental engines roared. The aircraft accelerated down the runway. The nose lifted. And then she was flying. The X-50 climbed rapidly. Sarah watched the altimeter spin. 10,000 feet, 20,000, 30,000. The aircraft climbed faster than anything she had flown before. At 45,000 feet, Sarah paused for a moment. This was where she had fainted before. But this time, everything was different. The oxygen system was perfect. She felt strong and alert. She continued climbing. 50,000 feet, 60,000. The sky above was turning from blue to dark blue. Almost black. She could see stars now, even though the sun was shining. It was beautiful. 2 F-22s flew far below her. They could not reach this altitude. But they were there for safety. Jake and Lisa were flying them. Sarah smiled. The same team, just in different positions. 70,000 feet. The curve of the Earth was clearly visible now. The horizon stretched in all directions. She could see the curvature of the planet. It was an incredible sight. X-50, you're approaching 80,000 feet. How are you feeling? Control asked. Feeling great, Control. Aircraft is performing perfectly. Sarah leveled off at 80,000 feet. She was at the edge of space. The sky above was black. Below her, the Earth looked like a giant ball. She could see weather systems. Mountain ranges, the coastline. She flew level for 10 minutes, testing the aircraft's systems. Everything worked perfectly. The X-50 was a success. Control, this is X-50. All tests complete. Beginning descent. Copy that, X-50. Well done. Sarah began the descent carefully. Coming down from extreme altitude required precision. She reduced power gradually. The nose dropped slightly. The aircraft began to fall back to Earth. As she descended through 60,000 feet, Sarah thought about how far she had come. From fainting at 45,000 feet to successfully flying at 80,000 feet. From being rescued to becoming a pioneer. The F-22s joined her as she came down through 50,000 feet. Jake's voice came over the radio. Welcome back to our altitude, X-50. Good to see you, Raptor 1. That was amazing to watch. You just flew higher than almost anyone ever has. Feels pretty good, Raptor 1. Sarah continued down. At 10,000 feet, she began her approach to the runway. The landing was smooth and precise. The X-50 touched down gently. Sarah brought it to a stop. Ground crew rushed to the aircraft. Engineers wanted to examine every system. But first, they helped Sarah out of the cockpit. She removed her helmet and breathed the desert air. It smelled wonderful. General Stone was there waiting. He shook her hand. "Outstanding flight, Captain. You just made history." "Thank you, sir. I knew you could do it. From the moment you woke up and landed that plane a year ago, I knew you had what it takes." That evening, the team celebrated. The X-50 program was a success. They had proven that aircraft could fly safely at extreme altitudes. This would open new possibilities for aviation. Sarah sat with Jake and Lisa. They talked about the future. About where aviation was heading. About what would come next. "Do you ever think about that day?" Lisa asked. "When you fainted?" "All the time," Sarah admitted. "But not with fear. I think about it as a lesson. It taught me that things can go wrong. But if you stay trained, if you stay ready, you can survive. And then come back stronger," Jake added. "Exactly." General Stone joined them. He was carrying a bottle of champagne. "A toast," he said. "To Captain Mitchell. To pushing boundaries. To test pilots who face danger and keep flying." They raised their glasses. Sarah felt proud. She had faced death and survived. She had overcome fear and set records. She was living her dream. But she also knew this was just the beginning. There were higher altitudes to reach. Faster speeds to achieve. New aircraft to test. The future of aviation was being written, and she was helping to write it. "What's next for you, Captain?" General Stone asked. Sarah smiled. "Whatever comes next, sir. I'm ready." Years later, Sarah became a general herself. She commanded the test pilot program. She trained new pilots. She taught them about safety. About courage, about learning from mistakes. She often told the story of fainting at 45,000 feet. Not to scare the new pilots, but to teach them. Equipment can fail. Bodies can fail. But training and preparation can save your life. The oxygen system failure that almost killed her led to improvements that saved many other lives. New safety standards were implemented across the entire aviation industry. Better testing procedures, more reliable equipment. Jake and Lisa remained friends. They all flew together on special occasions. They were the team that had faced an emergency at 45,000 feet and brought everyone home safely. General Stone eventually retired for real this time. But he stayed involved with aviation. He wrote books. He gave lectures. He inspired new generations of pilots. The X-50 program led to even more advanced aircraft. Planes that could fly higher and faster than ever before. Some even reached the edge of space regularly. Aviation had taken another leap forward. But for Sarah, the most important moment was still that day when she woke up at 45,000 feet. When she saw the F-22s flying alongside, when she heard General Stone's calm voice helping her. When she took control and landed safely. That was the day she learned that being a pilot was not just about flying when everything was perfect. It was about flying when things went wrong. About staying calm in emergencies, about never giving up. She kept a photo in her office. It showed the X-50 in flight at 80,000 feet. The sky black above. The earth curved below. It reminded her every day of how far she had come. From unconsciousness to the edge of space. From being rescued to setting records. From fear to courage. That was the journey of a test pilot. That was her story. And she was proud of every moment. Sarah often visited flight schools to speak with young pilots. She shared her experiences. She told them about the dangers and the rewards of flying. Many young women came to her, inspired by her story. "How did you overcome the fear?" they would ask. "I didn't overcome it completely," Sarah would answer honestly. "Fear is still there. But I learned to fly with it." Fear keeps you alert. It keeps you careful. The key is not letting it stop you. She also talked about the importance of teamwork. "I survived because of many people," she would say. General Stone who stayed calm, Jake and Lisa who flew alongside, the ground crew who maintained the aircraft, the doctors who treated me. Flying is never a solo effort. On quiet nights, Sarah would sometimes stand outside and look up at the stars. She thought about all the flights she had made. All the aircraft she had tested. All the boundaries she had pushed. She thought about that moment at 45,000 feet when everything went dark. That moment could have been the end. But instead, it became a new beginning. It taught her resilience. It showed her what she was capable of. The next generation of test pilots was already training. They would fly even higher. They would go even faster. They would push into space itself. Sarah had helped pave the way for them. But she also knew that some lessons never changed. Check your equipment. Trust your training. Help your teammates. Never give up. These were the principles that saved her life. These were the principles she passed on. As she looked at the stars, Sarah smiled. Somewhere up there, the next adventure was waiting. The next challenge, the next impossible thing to achieve. And somewhere, a pilot was preparing to chase it. That was the spirit of aviation. That was the dream that kept them all flying. From the Wright brothers to the astronauts, from propeller planes to spacecraft. Humans would always look up and wonder what was beyond the next horizon. Sarah had played her part in that great story. She had pushed the boundaries. She had survived the impossible. And she had inspired others to follow. The sky was not the limit. It was just the beginning.